They told you to suppress it. They told you to ignore it, repress it, to treat it as something shameful, sinful, dark, dangerous. And you believed them not because they were right, but because the full force of your primal fire terrified you. Because no one ever taught you how to carry it like a king, how to hold it like a sacred weapon forged in the deepest core of your soul. You were never weak, you were just uninstructed. Because what they called lust was not lust. What they called sin was not sin. What they labeled as temptation, indulgence, or carnal distraction was the untapped seed of your divine genius. And like every seed, it needed darkness before it bloomed. But instead of planting it, you buried it. Instead of cultivating it, you buried yourself with it. Avoiding your sexuality is not modesty. It's not virtue. It is the silent death of your creative power. Look around. Do you really think the world is run by logic? That empires are built purely on strategy? That masterpieces of art, revolutions of thought, towering skyscrapers, or symphonies of human greatness emerge from sterile calculation? No, they are born from fire, from hunger, from that sacred ache in the marrow, from that raw, invisible electricity that pulses through your blood when you are in alignment with your life force, not denying it, not apologizing for it, but riding it like a storm. The ancients knew this. Every myth, every civilization, every god, every temple wrapped in serpents and suns and lions understood the power that slumbers in the root, the kundalini, the ki, the libido, the alchemical flame. They called it different names, but it always pointed to the same force. What Freud called libido, Jung saw as psychic energy, the animating drive behind dreams, symbols, individuation, transcendence. Not merely a sexual urge, but the spiritual engine behind all creation. And what happens when you castrate that energy? You don't become pure, you become powerless. You become domesticated, fragmented, numb, because you cannot kill your instincts without killing your genius. You cannot silence your body without silencing your voice. You cannot fear your own fire and expect to light the world. The man who avoids his sexual energy is not stronger. He is starving. He is a lion in a cage pretending to be a monk. And the world does not need more men pretending to be holy. It needs men who have gone to war with their shadows and come back, crowned in wholeness. You will never be free until you reclaim what was always yours. Sexual energy is not about sex. It's about power, about presence, about raw, unfiltered life force, moving through your system like thunder. It's about the way you walk into a room and the air changes. It's about the way your words land when you speak from the diaphragm of your soul, not the throat of your ego. It is a spiritual strength to withstand your own magnitude. The man who masters this, who doesn't run from it, doesn't indulge it mindlessly, but transmutes it into vision, creation, devotion, is unstoppable. He becomes terrifying to weak men, magnetic to awakened women, and sacred to himself because he no longer begs the world for validation. He becomes the source. But make no mistake, this is not about indulgence. It's not about dissipation or hedonism. That's just another trap, another prison with golden bars. A man who leaks his energy is still a slave. He may be louder, but he is no freer. Real power is in containment, not repression, containment, the ability to hold fire without burning down the temple. A coiled serpent is more dangerous than a flailing sword. And the man who can sit with his desire, who can feel it rise and still remain unmoved, who can channel it without being ruled by it, that man is the architect of destiny. He's the rare one, the grounded lightning, the storm in silence, the union of the beast and the sage. He does not chase, he magnetizes. He does not seduce, he awakens. He does not take, he builds, because he knows deep in his marrow that his sexual energy is the first blueprint of his creative force. That every time he betrays it, he weakens, and every time he honors it, he expands. Michelangelo carved gods from stone not with a chisel, but with transmuted libido. Nietzsche wrote from the depths of his solitude because he dared to confront the beast within and emerged with thunder in his pen. Tesla harnessed electricity not only from the sky, but from the electricity of his own untouched energy, devoted, focused, unleashed on purpose. There is no greatness without tension, no art without hunger, no creation without polarity. And in that polarity, in that sacred tension between your primal body and your highest vision, you will either break or become godlike. Because your sexuality is not a side effect of biology. It is the sacred blueprint of your becoming. It is the forge where your will meets your nature. And if you abandon it, you abandon yourself. There's a reason monks isolated it, mystics studied it, and tyrants feared it. Because when a man reclaims that force and transmutes it, when he realizes he doesn't need to spill it, flaunt it, or suppress it, he becomes a walking revolution. He stops reacting and starts creating. He no longer bows to temptation because he sees through it. He no longer fears rejection because he no longer begs for access to what already lives within him. He doesn't seek release. He seeks mastery because he knows the same energy that seeks a body to consume is the same energy that can birth a legacy. On you verfertigt. That ache, that invisible current when you're about to do something great, that pulse when you're on fire with a vision, that sense of being more alive than ever, not because of someone else's touch, but because you touched something eternal within yourself. That is your power. And it's been waiting for you to stop running, waiting for you to stop hiding behind shallow distractions and moral masks, waiting for you to come home to yourself, not as a slave to lust, not as a martyr to shame, but as a sovereign being who can feel his full power, own it, hold it, and shape reality with it. That is what it means to be dangerous. Not violent, not reckless, but awake. And the awakened man is the most dangerous force on this planet. Not because he destroys, but because he creates. Because he builds temples where others burn bridges. Because he restores order where others sow chaos. And because he knows avoiding sexuality is not virtue, it is cowardice. And the world will never bow to the coward who denies his soul. It bows to the man who walks into the fire of himself and walks out forged. Let the weak keep their shame. Let the fearful keep their guilt. But you, if you are ready to rise, must reclaim your creative power. Not by escaping your desire, but by holding it. Not by fighting your instincts, but by uniting them with purpose. You are not here to be domesticated. You are here to become divine. And it begins by looking into the mirror, not with disgust, but with reverence. This is not your enemy. This is your engine. Use it. The fire within you is not an accident. It is not a flaw to be scrubbed from your soul, or a temptation to be resisted until death. It is a holy spark, placed in you by design, by God, by the Logos. The same Logos that said, "Let there be light." And there was light, not just illumination, but illumination preceded by fire. You were created in the image of the divine, not just in your capacity to love or to reason, but in your capacity to create. Genesis 1:28 says, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth and subdue it." This is not just a command to reproduce biologically. It is a divine calling to multiply your gifts, your light, your visions, your power, to bring order to chaos, to turn the unseen into the seen. Creation is a sexual act, always has been, not merely of flesh, but of spirit. Every time you write something true, every time you build something that reflects your inner order, every time you birth an idea into this world, you are engaging with the sacred. You are multiplying yourself, but you cannot multiply what you fear. You cannot subdue the earth when you have not even faced the battlefield of your own heart. Look at David, a boy who faced a giant. Not because he was the strongest, not because he had the best armor, but because he was aligned, not just with courage, but with purpose. He didn't run from his fire. He aimed it. David didn't suppress his passions. He consecrated them. That's the difference. The man who is ruled by passion is a slave, but the man who sanctifies his passion becomes a king. I discipline my body and keep it under control. Paul writes in 1 Corinthians 9:27, lest after preaching to others, I myself should be disqualified. He does not say, I kill my body. He does not say, I shame my body. He disciplines it. He trains it. He makes it serve the mission, not sabotage it. There's a sacred weight in that, a holy responsibility. Your sexuality is not yours to hoard, to leak, or to destroy. It is a stewardship, a sacred trust. And if you can't be trusted with the fire in your own loins, how can you be trusted with the fire of a vision that could change the world? God does not give power to the undisciplined. He gives it to the tested. Look at Joseph, betrayed, sold, thrown into prison, but still he rose. Why? Because when the moment of temptation came, when Potiphar's wife laid her hands on him, he didn't indulge. Not because he lacked desire, but because he feared God more than he feared lack. And that restraint, that sacred refusal to waste his energy, became the hinge of his destiny. Because your future is always hidden inside your decisions in secret. Always. The man who cannot master his impulses will never master his kingdom. You want to write the book, launch the business, lead the family, forge the empire, then control the flame before you try to carry the torch. Don't confuse abstinence with mastery. A monk in hiding is not a warrior in the field. And your life is not a monastery. It is a battlefield. You are not called to hide, you are called to fight, to conquer, not others, yourself. And in doing so, set others free. Look at Samson, stronger than anyone, touched by God. And yet what destroyed him? Not a sword, not an army, a woman. But not even her, truly. His destruction came from his own refusal to govern his gift. He violated his consecration. He played with his fire and got burned. His strength was not enough because his vision was corrupted. You think talent will save you? It won't. Only self-mastery will. The world is filled with men of talent who live like ghosts, haunted by the fragments of who they could have been, because they chose pleasure over purpose. They chose to serve the fire instead of ruling it. Better a patient man than a warrior, one with self-control than one who takes a city. Profer sestin tueyendertich. Your conquest means nothing if your soul is in ruins. So train the soul, build the inner altar before you try to build an empire. Learn to sit in the silence of your own flame and not flinch. Feel the tension rise and transmute it, not into fantasy, not into shame, but into clarity. That's what the greats did. Michelangelo spent hours in solitude, not because he didn't feel desire, but because he chose to carve that hunger into stone. Every curve of the Pietà was a prayer. Every line in David's face was an echo of restraint, not indulgence. Jung himself wrote, the libido is the energy which manifests itself in the life process and is perceived subjectively as striving and desire. And he warned that if untransformed, that energy turns inward into neurosis, depression, or projection. You don't avoid this force. You either transform it or it devours you. So choose. Transmute your hunger into vision. Shape your longing into structure. Forge your fire into focus. Speak your truth into existence, but only after you've mastered the storm within. Because you don't get to build a kingdom without first conquering your chaos. And if that fire you carry is sacred, then act like it. Starve the distractions. Kill the addictions. Sanctify your desire. Your body is a temple, not a cage, not a brothel, not a billboard. A temple. And temples are built to house glory, not guilt. The highest version of you is not tame, he is tempered. And until you meet him, every shortcut you take, every impulse you indulge, every moment you escape the weight of your own calling, will echo with regret, the kind that doesn't shout but whispers when you're alone. But if you rise, if you walk back into the fire of your design, if you kneel before the God who gave it to you, if you ask not for escape but for transformation, everything will shift. Because when you stop avoiding your sexuality, you stop avoiding your power. And when you stop avoiding your power, you stop avoiding your purpose. And when you stop avoiding your purpose, you stop avoiding God. And yet, here's the bitter truth most will never tell you. You are not being attacked by your sexuality. You are being attacked by your comfort, seduced by mediocrity, because nothing scares the system more than a man who reclaims his edge, a man who becomes spiritually alert, physically grounded, emotionally sovereign, because such a man is incorruptible, not because he's perfect, but because he has nothing left to hide. Understand this. The world doesn't profit from your clarity. It profits from your confusion. They want you addicted, distracted, depleted. The more you scroll, the less you build. The more you fantasize, the less you manifest. The more you numb, the less you feel that divine friction that tells you you're made for something higher. You think it's harmless. You think it's private. You think it's just you and a screen or a thought or a moment of escape. But every time you choose sedation over sovereignty, you are casting your vote for a life half-lived. And the world laughs not because it hates you, but because it knows exactly how to keep you asleep. In a culture that rewards numbing, rebellion looks like discipline. You want to be countercultural? Then starve your comfort. Fast from the things that dull your fire. And when the cravings come, and they don't run, sit with them, observe them, extract their root, because most of what you call desire isn't even yours. It's manufactured, engineered, implanted. You've been programmed to chase dopamine over destiny. But you weren't born for cheap highs. You were born for holy war. And every day you wake up, that war is raging, not out there, but within. This is why the book of Romans commands, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Romans 12:2, it doesn't say be improved. It says be transformed. A total metamorphosis, a spiritual mutation, a radical rebellion against the autopilot of your lower self. You think you're just dealing with habits. But habits are the surface symptoms of identity. Change your identity and the habits collapse. But the only way to transform identity is to suffer through the disintegration of your old self without turning back. And in that dark space between who you were and who you're becoming, most men crack. They reach for the bottle, the screen, the body. They escape anything to avoid the raw, holy silence that whispers, there's more in you. But if you can stay there, just stay, the heavens will part. Because silence isn't emptiness. It is the presence of something greater than noise. The man who can sit in silence and not go mad, not run, not reach for the familiar, is a dangerous man. Because silence sharpens you. It cuts away the excess. It forces you to confront the architecture of your soul. And what you find there is the blueprint of your real power. The kind of power that isn't performative. It doesn't scream. It doesn't posture. It simply is. It's in the gaze that doesn't flinch, the walk that doesn't hurry, the decisions made in stillness that bend reality. But this power comes with a price. You must give up your illusions. You must divorce your fantasies. You must bury the boy who thought pleasure was purpose, because manhood begins where comfort ends. Not in your titles, not in your muscles, not in your image, but in your willingness to be broken, rebuilt, and reborn in the furnace of your own soul. Look at Moses. He had every comfort in Egypt, palaces, riches, women, power. But the call came, and when it did, he left it all. He wondered. He doubted. He even asked God, who am I that I should go to Pharaoh? And God didn't tell him, you are strong. He said, I will be with you. Because real confidence doesn't come from self, it comes from alignment, from knowing you are on assignment, from knowing your actions echo eternity, from knowing your body is not a battleground but a vessel, and every choice you make with that vessel is either a prayer or a curse. You don't get to be indifferent. Every action is liturgy. Every day, worship. Every moment, warfare. And if you want to walk as one who builds the future, you must kill the part of you that fears becoming fully alive. Because most men don't fear death. They fear resurrection. They fear the weight of being seen fully, radically, without excuse. Because if they are truly seen, they can no longer hide behind potential. They must live as prophecy. They must stop playing the boy and begin walking as the father of legacies. And that, my brother, is the real burden, not the discipline, but the responsibility. Because when you awaken, the world no longer makes excuses for you. Il demande fruit, but the fruit will come. Because when a man begins living from that inner alignment, when he no longer avoids his fire but consecrates it, he becomes unstoppable. Not because he is immune to failure, but because he is rooted in something deeper than outcome. He is no longer living for success, he is success. Because success is simply alignment over time, purpose without perversion, action without anxiety, vision without vanity. He no longer fears being alone, because solitude is now his sanctuary. He no longer fears rejection, because he no longer self-abandons. He no longer fears the fire, because he has become it. He is not safe, he is sacred. He is not loud, he is law. And when such a man walks into the world must make room. Because he does not adapt to the room, he alters it. Then listen not with your ears, but with your soul. This is not just another speech. This is not content. This is not noise. This is the echo of something ancient trying to wake up inside you. The part of you that cannot be sedated, cannot be tamed, cannot be sold. You were never here to be normal. You were never here to fit in, to follow trends, to shrink yourself, to please the timid, the jealous, the broken. You were not made to apologize for your fire. You were not designed to walk half awake, numb to your own power, lying to yourself in the name of balance. You were made in the image of the living God. Do you understand what that means? It means the divine spark of creation is not above you. It is within you. It means that when God breathed into the dust, he didn't give you comfort. He gave you breath. Fire, burden, purpose, power, and to honor that breath you must build. You must live like your time here is holy. Because it is, you must walk like you are carrying something sacred, because you are. The world does not change when you scream louder. It changes when you burn cleaner. You don't fight darkness by condemning it. You fight it by shining without compromise. You don't win this war by hiding. You win by becoming, by standing tall when others fold, by speaking truth when others sell silence, by walking away from the herd to become the shepherd of your own soul. The kingdom of God is within you, Jesus said, not above you, not in a building, not behind a priest, within you. You don't have to chase it. You have to uncover it. Strip away the noise, the shame, the projections, the lies, and there it is underneath the rubble of your conditioning, the raw, unfiltered, unchained version of you, the one who doesn't bow, the one who doesn't beg, the one who doesn't tremble at opinions, threats, or rejection, because he knows that when God is with you, no man can stand against you. This is not about avoiding temptation. This is about rising so high that it no longer even tempts you. This is about moving from survival to sovereignty. This is about transfiguring your pain into power, your hunger into holiness, your wounds into wisdom. And when you stop running from your fire and start walking as it, you will scare people. Let them be scared. You weren't born to be liked. You were born to lead. You were born to disrupt. You were born to carve paths through wilderness, to leave maps in blood and stone for others to follow. You were born to rebuild the temple inside yourself and protect it like a lion. Because once that temple is restored, once your fire burns pure and undivided, once you walk in harmony with the deepest truth inside you, you become untouchable. Not because life gets easier, but because you get clearer, and from that clarity comes strength. From that strength comes silence. From that silence comes vision, and from that vision comes legacy. So remember this: avoiding your sexuality means avoiding your power. Avoiding your power means avoiding your purpose. And avoiding your purpose means betraying God. But reclaiming it, holding it, transmuting it, consecrating it, that makes you unstoppable. That makes you whole. That makes you dangerous to darkness and holy to the light. Now arise